Are we?
I see something. Yep, looks like we're live.
Yay!
Yay, we did it. I just have to put my glasses on occasionally.
And welcome everyone to another exciting adventure and journey of riding through the unknown. I'm your host, Michael, and tonight's guest is an amazing guest who I have been looking forward to having on the show. We have a lot of great topics to cover tonight, and so I am going to, without further ado, hand it over to the one, the only cosmic extraordinaire, Amy Starseed.
Well, thank you so much for that beautiful, exciting intro. The intro is, I feel very epic. It's an epic introduction.
Well, a well-deserved one.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be in the show and just share the cosmic journey.
Yes, and for anyone who may not be familiar, could you give a little background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just do a brief introduction. I'm Amy Starseed, and I call myself that because I am a starseed. We'll go into all the details of where I'm connected through that particular lineage. My journey began like about 20 years ago. I've been on this spiritual journey for a while, and I just really got connected to my intuition along, about 20 years ago. And it's just been a really interesting journey. And I started out in many different areas of my life. I was in filmmaking for a little bit, and I eventually went into the education business. And during this time, I had some experiences where my intuition and channeling really opened up, and it started with when both my parents passed away, and that was really it was not the beginning of my spiritual journey, but it really opened up a whole new world that I knew existed. Like there's one thing like learning and seeing or like basically learning about it, but then actually experiencing it. And it was the first time that I was open up to channeling and that parents came through, and that was the beginning of that. And since then I've been really touched on the other side. And then just kind of fast forwarding a little bit later, my star family came down through the Palladians star system, the star constellation of the Pleiades, and that was the first encounter that I had with my star family. I didn't even know that I was a star seed or anything; it just happened, and that was the first time I was making connection through the stars, and then the cosmic channeling started to come a little bit later in 2020. That's when the language and things started to come through for me, and then eventually some. It just escalated to the point where I'm singing and chanting, and that was all very much a surprise for me because I didn't know I had it in me, but it was always within me. And now that's what I do. I channel and I create cosmic art like this, as well as channeling, just channeling overall my star beings, and I do activations, and it's just been like this, I would say, pretty epic journey for myself.
That's really cool, and I'm kind of curious because I've seen a few people wear like the headdress and always a large stone around their throat chakra. And I'm curious if you feel that amplifies the energy and the connection, or is it more of just honoring the symbolism and the energy? It doesn't really need that. It just is something of kind of like, I guess, aesthetic.
I would say it's all of the above. And it really serves in many different ways, and I like it's a tool. And that's how I tell people when I share my work or bring it out. It's a tool to use just like anything else. The magic really is within us. We have all the elements and components of a crystal or anything that's magical really. However, these tools are ways to work with to help pull that out, and that's what these tools are about. That we working with the crystals and the third eye crown specifically. I have many different crystals with different kind of energies. Right now I'm wearing a tiger's eye, but like lapis would be like a kind of a go-to third eye opener. And that the reason why you see a lot of people wear that is because actually placing a crystal on the third eye really is magic. There really is a component. It connects closer to the pineal gland and the third eye. It opens up. And then also when people are wearing these kinds of crowns, not only are they opening up their third eye, they're connecting further into their own intuition. They're also reminding people out there in the world that first of all they have a third eye, and then it reminds people. It has like a remembrance to people. This is what the ancients used to wear, and even some cultures still wear to work with. So it creates a remembrance.
So I'm curious if you ever put like in a headdress over the third eye, like malachite, which, if memory serves right, if it's what I'm thinking it is the meteorite that's used to enhance the psychic connection. Would that be a wise thing to do, or would that be like you are blasting it open and you are going to have a bad experience because you are, well, I say bad because you're going to be like flooding yourself versus other stones that are like probably softer connection?
That's a really good point you're making, and it does make a difference of what crystal you put onto the third eye. This is for example, let's say the extremes. I would suggest like an amethyst is a more calmer crystal that you can connect to the third eye. It opens the third eye and your intuition, but it's a very calming crystal. Any beginners out there who are wanting to work with that, I really recommend like an amethyst to start out with. A lapis lazuli would be another one that's going to be a little bit more potent as far as connecting to to opening up that third eye. Like this is what the high priestesses worked with, that to really connect with their intuition. So they're going to work with the lapis to go a little bit deeper into that. And then labradorite is also it's a stronger crystal. One thing a lot of people keep asking me, and I haven't really done because I know it's going to be really strong, is using like a meteorite. That they want to use that crystal, and that's just going to blast off so many people. But really what it comes down to is the person. Like everybody has a sensitive level to the crystal. Some people can put something on and they don't really feel much, while others feel it right away. And so depending on like how their sensitivity level is to that kind of crystal and that connection, and how deep they want to go and connect to their intuition. So those are the components that matter when you're working with this.
Yeah, it's moldavite. It popped in my
Moldavite,
head.
yes, that's the word. I just say asteroid because that's just what I think of.
I know, and but yeah, and so that's really cool, and it's really cool that you're in tune and able to make like the headdress or the necklace. And I'm kind of curious because my mind, I'm like going, no head is alike. So do they send you measurements if you're making the headdress for them so that it fits properly, or how do you guide them to make sure they order the right headdress?
Well, if they're doing something online, for example, or a custom piece, that each piece is designed where it's adjustable. So
Okay.
it's gonna pretty much fit any head, and if it's a really I mean bigger head, then maybe I can add a little more material. But pretty much I designed it that way. You can't see it because I'm wearing it, but there's two adjustable parts. There's a back part. I'll just exaggerate it. There's two clasp, one on each side, and they can pull in or pull out. So it's pretty much going to fit everyone. And then there's another adjustable piece in the middle. So I designed it that way. So in my case, pretty much it fits with every head that I have come across. And every once in a while, it may be, someone would need a little bit more material, and I maybe add a little bit more chain, but it's pretty much going to fit everyone. And it's really just like the crystal, like how does one connect with the crystal? So sometimes they want something specific. So if for example, doing a custom order, they're like, oh, can you use this crystal with this kind of theme or some kind of design that I can create for them. So that's how I would do it. But as far as fitting them, it's really easy. I just need to give them some instructions of how to clasp it on. Which I actually did create a YouTube for that, so to help with people with it, so it can be maybe take a moment to figure out how to put it on. But once they adjust it, they only needed to do it one time, so they clasp it to where it fits their head. Then they just put it on and take it off, and that's it.
That's really cool that you do that, because the reason I ask is like some places are like, oh, we do it and it fits this, and like hats, you buy a hat and it's like, well, it's too small for
Hmm.
my head, so I guess I don't get the hat. And it's like, and so it's really cool that yours is adjustable and can fit more than just what everyone calls the norm, because I feel like some places they're like, we're gonna only, make our stuff for the norm, and that way we don't have to have extra materials and extra stuff on hand, and we can make it more affordable. And I'm like, well, that's great if your head's the norm. So that's
Yeah,
why I was
actually,
asking that.
it's a good question because, like, sometimes it's funny because I do get people they judge their head. They're like, "Oh, I have a big head," and I'm like, and I correct people when they say that. Like, there is no such thing as a big head. You just have a head. So and that's why I make sure that everything's adjustable. So and then I also when I'm at an event, and that's typically where I sell most of my things. However, I always bring like extra material, chains and things. It's very rare that I actually have to adjust or add more or anything like that. Most of the time, it pretty much fits. However, I accommodate that, and so there is like no normal size. It's just your hip size. So every piece is just going to fit you, not so much on the chain size. It's just going to be like, oh, what crystal or what design do you resonate with? And that's how I actually advise people when they come up to my booth, or I say, well, go with your feeling on it. Is there something that like you're drawn with, like a particular crystal or design? Because when I channel it, the energy comes through. So I'm infusing it into this area, and then the chain part is just the attachment. So this part is very, very easily adjustable. And then how, people, I've had men with bald heads putting it on. It looks great and they rocking it. I had like, all kinds of different people putting on, and then if people have hair, they can pull through. So that's what typically I do. Or if they have like really curly hair, they may just want to set it on top. Sometimes they want to put like pins on it. So it's really easy and to put on. Well, some people may find it a little complicated at the beginning, but then they get used to it. And I'm always here. Like whenever anybody purchases a piece from me, I'm like I make myself available, and I will. They have a question about it, they can contact me, and I answer them right away.
That's really cool. And as we're talking about the headpiece, and I'm thinking about, the large piece that's on your by your throat and heart chakra in
Hmm.
between. How do you determine a stone that's, because it is, gonna the size that it is, how do you find stones that are like good for the throat and the heart and not going to be like, oh, this
Mm.
one that enhances the throat, but it's not, it's kind of diminishing the heart because it's not supposed to be by the heart,
Well,
if that
again,
makes
that
sense.
oh yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so that's a good question. I just use my intuition on that one. I don't really have a strategy. So when I take a crystal, this is labradorite. Um, this one's a really good. A lot of people do wear this as a pendant, and but my favorite is like on the piece. I'm not. This is actually a set, but I'm not wearing it right now. So like most of the crystals are going to just have its own kind of energy. So some people just feel more comfortable placing it closer to their heart. Not everybody wants to put it on their third eye. But I also make these body crystal grids. I'm not wearing one right now, where I specifically target certain areas. So, for example, I'll have like a blue crystal, like a lapis or turquoise, for example, on the throat area, and that's specifically the intention of working and opening the throat chakra. And I'll also make specific ones like rose quartz for the heart to open the heart chakra. And then I do make a lot of the amethyst. At lapis is again one I work with a lot for the third eye. So I'm intentional kind of right away when I create it. Um, when I have a crystal, and then once in a while I just create something that feels right. So it could just be a pendant that maybe lay a little bit longer than maybe directly over the heart. And so it's like different designs that way. And it's just the energy of the crystal that I'm feeling and tuning into. And like I said, I'm channeling it. So it's not like I'm literally like in this flow state when I'm making these pieces, like kind of like a painter when they go on a canvas, they're just like da 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 da. That's what I feel like when I make this. Like I'm totally I don't really even always know what I'm going to do with it. I get the crystal, I tune into it, and the rest just sort of flows in the channeling state.
That's cool. And I'm kind of curious a little bit because I know from experience watching some people, they're like, oh, I really love the look of this stone and I love this stone, but they really don't know what they're buying.
Hmm.
And so if they go to you and say, like, oh, I love this tiger's eye. Can you make it for my necklace? And
Hmm.
do a necklace for my throat. And it's like, well, tiger's eye is not for the throat. Do you advise them on that? Or do you say, you want the tiger's eye? You get the tiger's eye.
I always talk about what the crystal does. So if, for example, the tiger's eye, so this a tiger's eye is a crystal for your solar plexus. It's for empowerment, it's for your self-esteem, it's connecting to your soul in a very strong, way. It's like that communication bridge of the soul and your personal power. So I go into a description of what the tiger's eye is. And if that person's like resonates with it, yeah, I need to pull that out. So it's more like the ingredients of what the crystal does for them. That's more important. I said, what is, and so when people come up, they're like, I ask them, what is your intention or what would you like to pull out for yourself? That's the first question I typically ask. And then someone may say, oh, I really want to open my heart, or I want to open to love, or I want to open, well, so if they, for example, if they said that, I'd be like, I would guide them to like a rose quartz or something where it's more loving and open. And they're like, oh, I want to like express myself, express my truth, and I'll do something with more of a blue crystal like a lapis or a turquoise, or some I have like a blue lace agate that I work with. So just depending on what I create at that time. And if someone wants to just focus more on their intuition, I'm going to say, okay, lapis. I'll be so I just give them those kinds of instructions. Um, and then once in a while I do get someone who just looks at a necklace and they just love the way it looks and that's what they want. And I don't really judge it. And if they really feel like a connection to it, I think it's more the important is the connection and their intention behind it. So that's where I base on when I have someone approach me, and that's how I like to explain it for them.
No, I'm glad you do that because I feel like, yeah, because a lot of people have in their mind, oh, I've seen this and, I've seen it somewhere else on somebody else and they're this. And so this is going to help me. And they don't really understand what it is. And so I appreciate the fact you take the time to say, this is what you're getting. So is this
Mhm.
something you're really wanting to work on? Or if you're already maxed out on this, maybe, you want to try a different stone. And so that's really cool because I think, yeah, a lot of people in our world make emotional decisions and not connection issues or not connection decisions. I mean, I don't know why I said issues.
Yeah, it's like it is definitely not like and that's what I tell people my pieces I tell them is this is the activation station for a reason. Like this is not something I create where it's just it's not just pretty jewelry. It is. It's art for sure. And it's, and of course the aesthetics can be quite beautiful and I'm in awe of it sometimes. However, it is like a tool, it's like a medicine, and then I really work with people with that, and I that's why when people come up and I tune in, and then a lot of times, especially when people, may purchase the third eye activation, if I'm somewhere, I'll even offer an actual activation with the piece, and I that's really, really powerful to do that, so they could be wearing the third eye piece, and I go through this process. I say, "What do you wanna bring in for yourself?" And they set this intention, and I work with the actual third eye crown, and we just set this intention. I go through, like, a guided process, and I do an actual activation. So the activation is the crown, but there's an additional procedure after that, and it just infuses that energy with the actual piece, so that every time they wear it, and a lot of times, some of the times they wear the piece during a meditation, and then maybe some people may wear it when they're out and about. So it really depends on the person. So it's a very personal experience for each person, and maybe not for every single person who purchased it. Like, they may say something, purchased it for whatever reason. I don't really judge it, to be honest. Like, I'm not there to judge anyone how they wanna make the purchase, but I will be the guide to the
Right.
best that I can to get them to, point them in the right direction. But I do one of the things I'm always educating people with all that I do, even with channeling, is how to connect with their intuition. And I always ask people, how do you feel about it? Why? What is your intention? So I don't like to make decisions for people. And even when I do the activation, is a very co-creative experience, and that really does include the even when they do pick a piece, even the whole purchase is a sacred union, and it's an alignment, and that's what I also share with people. So you're literally in an alignment of what you're choosing for yourself. And sometimes people go there and they don't feel something, if they don't feel a connection, and I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to force yourself to even pick any of this. It'll find its the right home.
Right. And I'm kind of curious just in the back of my mind. I'm like, I'm picturing like, you're at a fair and you get that young couple that always is like, we got to have everything matching and are like, so do you ever like have that come up where she's like, oh, I want this and I want him to have the same thing, and so they get duplicate pieces?
None of my pieces are duplicate. They're only one of a kind. So like one person, they can't have matching sets because I don't make matching sets. The only matching set I may do is like sometimes I do a neck or like a pendant and a third eye piece, and that will be the set because it goes together and the activation. But yeah, like no one's gonna. So it's, for example, so if someone has bought or wanted this piece, I have other pieces maybe with labradorite crystal, but it's never gonna look like the same thing. It's always gonna be different.
Well, that's cool because I've often wondered, like guys, are like, buying for somebody else, and then they're like, they come and they buy for them, and it's like they end up with the same one, and they're like, oh, isn't this cute? And you're like, not really, because I
Yeah.
don't see you guys gonna.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's kind of, I wonder then, do they sit there and be like, which is closest to each other, or
Yeah, I think when I haven't had too much of that, so the only thing I would do is like, well, what fits for her and what fits for you? So like I would pick something. Do you want what do you want to pull for you? Then for a guy, it could be I'll bring out the tiger's eye, get connect to your power. for her. Maybe she wanted me to be more intuitive or something. So I would ask intentionally what she wants to pull in. So and then so she would pick something that she resonates with, and he would pick something that he would resonate with, and that's how I would do it. But as for like being a matching set, like I mean, perhaps they both want the same crystal, and I may offer those pieces that are available, and but it's going to be a little bit different. Not like I said, I make each of these pieces like one of a kind. Nothing ever matches. And it's like so that piece that you purchase is literally designed for you. And the style may be a little bit similar, but it's always going to be different. So they may pick something that's a little bit similar, but it won't be the same. Unless they like someone reached out to me and specifically say, "Hey, I want to do custom order. I want a specific thing where we have matching sets," and that's their intention. And that I will totally do because if that's their intention, then I'll definitely honor that.
Yeah. I'm also picturing though when you're making one and you're like, "Oh, I really love this piece." You don't make yourself a copy of it and be like, "Oh, I got one for myself too now."
I'll just end up keeping it. Like, if I start wearing I've done that multiple times where I start to wear something like, more like, I always wear a lot of it because I'm out there and I'm putting on, but sometimes I just start to connect with it. Like this one, I'm actually growing attached because I've been wearing this a lot. I'm like, "I don't know if I wanna give this away." So, it's just so sometimes that happens, and then maybe I, like, wear it for a little bit, but I let it go. And, so, that's how I try not to be too attached, but once in a while, like, I have a piece there's an amethyst piece. That's mine, and I connected with it. I'm not gonna give it away. But that's but I still won't make like a replica of it.
No, that's cool. Cause yeah, cause I was picturing like making a custom order, and you're like, "Man, this really looks cool. I'm really loving the energy of this," and going, I wonder if I have enough material to make a third one because they ordered two and be,
Mhm.
it kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, I could
make yourself one and be like,
but then I would like so if that were to happen, like I mean they maybe there's something that, oh wow, I like that, and then maybe I sell it. And I'm like, I could try to do the same thing, but what will end up happening, and I've actually had this happen where I'll just like I'll upgrade it. I was like, I'll do this, but I'm gonna add this. So it's just always evolving, and I don't really know what I'm gonna do until I do it. And honestly, that's the fun of it. That's a way that flows for me, and I think that's kind of like the art about it is it's and I really do hold my integrity to this part where it is meant to be one of a kind. Like, it's kind of like, and I don't want to like compare myself to some of these artists, but like if it's a Picasso, for example, there's going to be like a similar style. There's going to be a similar look, and maybe there's like a theme that Picasso or Van Gogh is actually one of my favorites. He does a lot of like, so he's going to have a similarity to doing it that it's going to be Van Gogh, but there's never going to be a replica. It's gonna be like one painting that he does, and then that's it. And that's how I would like to keep this. I don't want to I've had these kind of thoughts before of mass producing it. I know people who do that, and it would just for me, it would take the magic out, and I would lose its integrity. And I really do want to honor what it is that I do because I really am channeling, and the energy comes through. And if I were to mass produce it in a way, then it's gonna lose its value in that way. And I don't. Then I lose the purpose of why I'm doing this in the first place.
"That's very true." And I respect that. And, that's, rare to find a little bit, in some of today's world. And so kudos to you for doing that and sticking to it. And, and I like how, you're like, yes, I can duplicate it for myself, but I'm gonna put my twist to it. So it's not a true duplication. So you are keeping your word, even though you
Hmm.
are borrowing part of the design. So that's really cool that you do that for yourself and you still honor, the one of a kind aspect. And going along with the one of a kind aspect, one thing that you mentioned doing in the topics that I thought was something that I wanted to make sure we address on the show because I think it's something that one is a little bit misunderstood or misused, the verbiage of it, and two is actually needed in this world in ways I don't think people totally realize, and that's the divine feminine awakening. And so, can you describe to us in your world and your experiences what to you the divine feminine awakening is?
Yeah, it's a great topic right there, and thank you for asking this. And my interpretation of that, the of the divine feminine is, and I just unleashed this workshop called the Empress Rising. And what this really means is, and I like to work with the word empress on this one because it's really about women tapping back into their leadership of the feminine, or their feminine, or divine feminine, energy and intuition. And this is something that many, ancient times, many, like Atlantean times, Egyptian times, there was the empress, and the empress were leading this world, in not in a overpowering way that we see today, where a lot of the leaders are doing. They're like, it's coming from a place of greed, overpowerment, and it's coming, it's imbalanced. So the divine feminine has come through for a reason now, because it's time and things have shifted, and now the things that used to work with the the, and I would like to bring this up before I get into this topic, because when we say divine feminine, what I really like to clarify is that divine is a word that's often used, almost kind of typecasted in a way, because we're all divine. So a lot of times it's about, what we're talking about is just the feminine and the masculine balance is what we're really talking about. And what's happened is there's been a lot of wounding. So there's really the wounded masculine, the wounded feminine. So when we bring up divine, we talk about, okay, it's the actual healed, feminine, and the healed masculine energies that we're really talking about. So the divine is already there. The divine is already ever present. We have the divinity within us all the time. But with the wounds and the programming that gets pushed down and down, and fear-based, programming, that conditioning has been with us for thousands of years. So the divine movement, or the feminine movement, is really about clearing the woundingness, the programming, the repression, oppression that we've been experiencing for eons of years. So, back in the time of the Empress, there wasn't that woundingness. It was embraced, it was welcomed, it was this balance of the masculine and the feminine, together. So the leadership of the women coming through were talking about how to, or sharing their gifts, sharing their wisdom, guiding, the world and the men around in such a way that actually created a beautiful balance. And the men coming and understanding that balance by the delegation of the feminine power, they also had their own power by dancing with that, and they knew this sacred union between the masculine and the feminine, together. And so the masculine understood that, so they worked with the feminine energies, or leadership. And that's how it was for a long time ago, the Atlantis time, or even some of the Egyptian time, until it collapsed. And this is like a whole history thing, and the Romans came in, and that's a whole thing. I'm not going to get too much into history, and that collapsed all that. So this uprising of this divine feminine, uh, awakening, is about coming back to ourselves, remembering who we are, and really embody the leadership that lives within us, like the authentic leadership, not the way we're taught. That's not true. The authentic leadership of the feminine, uh, experience, is about understanding our intuition, listening to our intuition, and taking action on it, and also allowing our gifts to shine, whether it's through singing or education or art, and then the nurturing parts of the woman, of the divine feminine, is a giving energy. It's giving, but also knowing how to receive. So it's not just how we're taught to give, 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 put ourselves aside, put the women aside, and give, 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 and suppress and oppress. Like that's not correct. It's giving and really receiving. It says give, receive, give, receive. So the women, when they give in a place not out of obligation, not from fear, not from conditioning. They give because they fill up their own cup. They know how to take care of their own divine power within themselves. So they nurture themselves, they take care of themselves. Then when they come to that place of feeling full, then they come and they help what's around, and they give in such a way. They give to the men or give to the world or whatever it is, and they give by giving their gifts. So it could be the wisdom, it could be following their intuition and sharing others how to do that. It could be, through the art and things like that. These are just examples, of course. It goes way more than that. So that's what this movement's all about. I say movement because that's really how I feel about it, and I'm actually kind of calling it that because it's this movement where it benefits not just the women but also the men. And I think that we're at a time where, you know, we need that for both, and men can also very much connect to the same divine feminine um, energies that also live within them. So it's that balance. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And what I find interesting is, when we look at like different tribes and modern to ancient, like indigenous tribes, women, unbeknownst to everybody, actually held the power. Is they decided everything that was going on. The chief, the guy was just like, hey, if we're going to war, we're going to war. Or if you're going to make warrior status, okay. But everything else was like hunting was determined by the women. When the hunting would happen, when food stores need to be replenished, who is going to go. And we look at ancient, like, I mean, we so overlook things like, example was Sparta in the movie 300. One of
Mm,
the truest statements ever, I think, of the true power of Sparta was when she said, "You go do what you're going to do, and you come home holding this shield, or you come home on it." That was her orders
mm,
to him. That was not just her, saying, "Oh, please come home, and make sure they bring your body home. Can you?" No, she was dictating the king an order.
mhm,
And so I think a lot of people miss that and, write it off as something else. And I'm like, no. And she went into the council chamber and put them in their place and exposed the corruption. And it was
mhm,
like, yeah, women had more power in the ancient times than we give them credit for having. And I feel like, and this is an observational judgment, is when the Holy Roman Empire came about and started moving around and seizing territory and going into the clans, even the Germanic tribes, women fought with the men. And so they were always equals until the Holy Roman Empire came in. And then it was like, nope, we're now patriarchal and we're going to do it this way. And all of that was lost until now. We're starting to go, wait a minute, we need that feminine aspect back in the masculine side, and the feminine needs the masculine side, like you're saying, the balance. And I always find it interesting with verbiage that it's like the term is divine feminine, sacred masculine. It's like, why isn't it divine feminine, divine masculine? Because the sacred and divine means the same thing, but why do we have to change the word? And so that's, things that I look at and I see, and I'm like, it's interesting to, just to note those little nuances throughout history.
That's the label that we need as humans to have, is like, like I said, my guides, when I was first using divine masculine, divine feminine, they kind of scolded me a little bit. They're like, and that's why I bring it up earlier. They're like, "You're all divine. Stop saying divine. You're all divine." And I go back to what I was saying. It's the wounded part. So we have to say, we say divine, we say sacred, because we're reminding people of what we're missing. And so, but we are already those counterparts. We're already sacred. We're already divine, masculine and feminine. However, that's just the language, the way, the imbalances, I like, basically since the Roman times, like really mismanaged all that to the point where here we are today in this uh Western culture of the new, era that we're in right now, and we're trying to find the right words to describe this. So we say these words to remind us of what was the sacred, the divine. But if you could pull those out and you go to what's truly authentic, you could remember that you are divine already. So stop chasing after something that's already existing, and remove and declutter all the stuff, the jargon, the labels that tell you otherwise.
Yeah, and I remember when religion was putting up like the billboards. I don't know if they were in your area. There was, and they would say, "I am second." And I finally said to somebody, a friend of mine, and I was like, "You're second to what? It doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense to me." And they go, "No, you're misreading it. They're saying Jesus is first and they're second." And I said, why? Why am I not on the same level? And it's like I kind of got this look. And then I remembered, okay, when religion first started, even the Catholics did this in the very beginning, was we are the children of God made in his image. Then all of a sudden it became Jesus is the child
Mhm.
of God made in his image. We're just here. And I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Who decided I lost my divinity? Because I didn't lose I didn't choose to lose my divinity. Wait, whoa, whoa. And yeah, nobody really liked that I asked that question of, when did we lose our divinity? Because I mean, it was in their language, and then it was not in their language, and they were like okay with that being removed. I was like, why? I
Mhm.
wouldn't be happy with that being removed.
Yeah, that's just a way to control people. If you put yours as a second class citizen of the spirituality, the power structure, then there's always going to be that you're striving for. You're always like, okay, that's it, that's the power. So they separate that power, saying, okay, now first is God, now it's Jesus. Jesus is all divine. You're not. You need to strive and do everything you can to stay pure, so you can, be close to Jesus. Anyway, I don't want to get too much on the religious part, because, like
Right.
you know how these conversations go.
Oh,
But
I
like
know.
and then, I hear people talk about Jesus, and they say, they make these comments like, oh, like sometimes people say like, only Jesus is the only way, that like Jesus is the answer, and da da da, and I have very beautiful connection with Jesus, first of all. And it's really just, and like I always come down, and when people like get after about that, like, oh, Jesus, you strive to, all this stuff, I can go on and on about it. And all I do is I explain to people, I say, well, what you really need to do is just open your heart. That's it. Open your heart.
Yeah.
And you can go on and say, I can strive to be this. I want to be divine. I want to be this. You're just chasing after something that you'll never get. And all you got to do is just stop and open your heart and go within. That's where you're going to find your divinity, not this way, that way.
Right. And so that's where I like your slogan. I think it was on your website. I found it and I grabbed it as a topic, was in quotes, was be the magic. And
Mhm.
when I read that, I was like, that is such a beautiful statement. And I'm wondering, as we, are embracing our magic side or our energy within and expressing it outward, when you talk about movement and sound healing, I get the sound healing, using like Tibetan bowls and everything. But movement, I've never heard movement as being a healing modality. And so I'm curious, how all three of those connect and how they help people let go of the stuck feeling or being disconnected.
Yeah, movement is very, very important. There's all these different aspects of the healing modalities, and for stuck energy to be released, there's the programming, the mental aspect of it, where you that's a big one. The beliefs and what you feel about it behind it is what infuses the energy. But when we experience and we'll have trauma, it gets stuck in our body. And how do you release stuck energy? Is yes, there's and I do different kinds of healing modalities. Like you can energetically pull certain things out. However, I found that sometimes there's only one way. Besides Reiki or whatever, these different strategies of that, and it's movement. And there's a couple ways of doing movement that can move the energy. And one of the kind of the go-to movements that I like to work with is number one, dancing. So I have sessions with people, or I do group sessions with people where we all get up. We'll go and do the mental work, the spiritual work. We'll break it down. We'll write things down. We'll cry and do all these things, and then I get everybody to stop that. I get everybody up, and then we shake it out. And it's like this. It's animals do this all the time. And when they experience trauma, one of the things that animals do is once they do that fight, flight, freeze mode, whatever they're doing, they go and they shake it off. They move the energy. So I'll use dance or just movements. And then when I say dancing, I don't mean like choreography or anything like that. It's literally just like moving your body or shaking it however you want to like do it. That's really what dance is. Like, I just need to, you can even do weird stuff. It doesn't matter. So we get there and I make people move the energy however they intuitively want to. And I usually have to motivate it at the beginning, and that's fine. And I just get people to shake and move and make sounds. That moves the energy. And also another really powerful way of moving energy is breath work. And I just did it earlier today. I was having some stuck energy that I was like, I need to release this. And I was like, sometimes even the dancing doesn't quite do it, but I'll do a breath work session, and it's so powerful. And it just, you're working with your own breath, moving energy in and out, and there's a whole process of that. It will go to these parts of the body that we don't even know there's stuck energy, and then suddenly it's released through the breath. So, those are examples of some movements that really, really are powerful and needed. I mean, besides everything else, and of course, occasionally you can get extra support, but of people pulling things out and going to an energy healing or healer, for example. But the truth is you can do this for yourself too, and by moving and breathing.
I appreciate you bringing up the breath work because I was actually on the phone and I was laughing with a friend of mine about something that we were talking about doing and just having fun and, kind of lightening our energy with laughter. But she was trying to do like the witch heckle, and it sound and I said to her, that sounds more like Lamaze breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And just now, it's like I had that thought as you're talking about breath work, releasing, being stuck and everything. How interesting it is that when a life is brought into this world, the mother does breath work. She's
Mm-hmm.
told to breathe a certain way, and it helps to bring the life in. And so we're actually born through breath, you could almost say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that we never go back and say, hey, if this is what I was born through, can I use it for other things? And we just forget about it almost.
Yeah, it's interesting that people forget this. So the only thing that keeps us like that we cannot live without, like in this moment, like we if we stop drinking water, if we stop eating, if we stop doing certain things, we could survive for a while. But one thing we can't survive without is breathing. So we're only here living in this 3D world or 4D now, wherever level you're at, because of our breath. And it's the thing that keeps us here. And is you hear that the thing this when people say breath of life because it's true. We wouldn't that is literally what keeps us alive. So if I were to suddenly stop breathing, gone in probably a very short amount of time. And so when we come into this world, it's the breath now. Now, obviously, when we're in the belly of the baby at the with their mom's womb, and we have a whole different cosmic journey in that approach. But like we come into the 3D world, we open our eyes, we're maybe
Looks like.
we're in this reality, we're breathing, and then people who eventually, especially when we're older, we forget to use our breath. We don't realize how important it is. And yeah, of course, when we take our last breath, we are no longer existing. So we understand this relationship with our breath that allows us to release the energy, but it's really about the connection of our soul. So if you want to, anybody ever want to really get connected with their soul like instantaneously, you can do all the ayahuasca journeys and this and these kinds of journeys, but it is the breath that will instantly remind you of how you're connected to your soul. It's, just by working with your breath. You can feel your body and you can feel this other connection, um, uh, we know to your soul. And so when we do these breathing exercises, you can't, that's one of the potent ways that I connect with people when I do like a session or whatever, or a group session. Also, it's really there's always going to be these moments where everybody gets to experience their breath. And it's funny because anybody can do this at any time, but we forget to breathe because we're just not taught how to use our breath. Like no one teaches how important it is, and a lot of people in this world working, doing their daily lives, and a lot of people barely breathe. They hold everything in. They're like just small little breaths, and then occasionally they'd be like, ah. You see someone getting like frustrated, like, ah, like they just like suddenly have to release it. And, because they just can't hold it in anymore. And it's like they got to use the breath to finally release whatever tension they're experiencing. And there's a reason for that. It's like this natural, like your body's like, okay, get this out. I don't care. You're frustrated. Just like do something about it. You're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good thing to do that in that sense. But if you can learn to control it, like breathing in, breathing out. Obviously, there's slow breathing is good to relax your nervous system, and you do like more of these hyper breathing techniques, which really gets you into this altered state of consciousness. So,
And so Danny Hawk is saying, is it like the prana that they talk about in that culture?
yeah, like Kundalini. So in Kundalini yoga, it's all about the breath. To get connection to the Kundalini, there's different exercises, how they work with the root, moving the breath all the way up, circulating this energy of the Kundalini energy, and it's all through breath. And that's how they connect to this. And when really the Kundalini is really just connecting to this higher consciousness of your soul.
And Huna, I remember when I was studying Huna and a few other of those type of modalities myself, I remember they would tell us you can keep your face forward but your eyes up, or somehow look up, and you take deep breaths in, deep breaths out, and you do that for until your energy reaches where you want it to reach. So if your energy level, let's say, is normally, like, for example, is here, but you're feeling it all suddenly down here, their answer is, yeah, you look up, you do your breaths, and it raises it up. And when it feels it's here, maybe go a little bit more. So then if you do diminish some, you're still where you're supposed to be. But yeah, it's interesting how I almost would venture to say any metaphysical healing modality, breath is a major part of it.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you study any different healing modality, they're always going to use breath, and maybe they have different styles and techniques of it. There's a lot out there, and then there's still some, techniques I'm discovering. So it's just about like that relationship of your breath and whatever journey you want to take with that. And so when I work with people, it's so important. Like, there's no way I can do a session without someone connecting to their breath, because that's how they learn to have this communication within themselves. And you can't really communicate with yourself without connecting with your breath. I mean, there's people who have a natural ability and intuition where it may be a little bit easier. And of course, I talk about doing third eye activations and opening the third eye or the pineal gland. That's a big part of it. But it's typically using with breath. So when I work with opening that, we're going to do breath work to help open that part up.
Yeah, and I've seen people when they're doing chakra work, is they physically, will emulate, by spinning their hand a certain way, and they're like, okay, we're ramping up the chakra. But then what people don't realize is then they blow into the chakra, and it's like, yeah, whatever is blocking that just gets blown away. And so even that, has an element of breathing to it. And so, yeah, it's kind of interesting how it's always been around, just we don't pay attention to that part.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, now people talk about more often these days, almost like this new discovery, like, oh, breath work, it's the new trend.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like this new thing that people are discovering. When it's like the most ancient thing, or beyond any ancient. It's just it literally has been with us since the beginning of time, but the beginning of human existence of any kind, especially humans. Not, and it's different for other beings, star beings out there. It's a totally different thing. It's literally a human experience to have breathing, and if we can understand that relationship, it helps with the connection, and people who have a disconnect with that and are unconscious of it, because like we do take it for granted, because it just happens. It's like something we're breathing anyway. We get to a point where we're breathing, we don't have to think about it, we don't have to control it, it just happens. So it's very easily taken for granted. We have oxygen, like I'm breathing now, but when suddenly you're like become aware of, okay, now I'm breathing, I'm going to go a little slower, I'm going to go a little bit faster, that's when we have control of our soul and our existence, and we can literally control our reality just through our breath.
Right. And I have moments where, like, my mom, she would kind of be like laughing and concerned at the same time, because I could just be sitting there in a chair, and all of a sudden I'll be like, and I'll start to like cough and be like choking, almost choking a little bit. And she's like, "What?" I said, "I breathed. I think I forgot it to breathe, and my body tried to
Mhm.
suck in too much air at once, and it's not going down the right pipe. So give me a
Mhm.
minute." And it's like, yeah, and it's kind of funny how I often wonder though in that moment, is it really true that it's like I wasn't breathing, or did the body pick up on something? Is like, oh, we need more energy, and it just overdrew the energy, and I
Mhm.
was breathing, it just needed more, and it just went in excess instead of the normal breathing.
Yeah, your body's intelligent and it knows it needs more oxygen, and there's like a natural like response to that. So if it's like if you're short of breath or you just it may say, I need more energy for, for whatever reason. And then the body will respond in a way, creating some kind of like gasp or something or sound to get more breath. And people do it all the time. Like yawning, for example. How many times do you see people yawn? Why do people yawn? Like I often yawn because I'm purging energy. I mean, sure, sometimes I'm tired, and that's what we typically, think about yawning. Like, oh, I'm just tired. And when people yawn, they think it's tired, but it's actually just a form of purging. You're just releasing energy. And like I think when we're ready for rest, we're ready for sleep. Whatever tension we're experiencing the day, just it gets released through yawning. And so that's the body's natural response. Hey, I need to release and also just release energy and also gain to get more oxygen. And a lot of times when people have headaches, they're not getting enough oxygen in their brain. So they're holding their
Hmm.
breath, they barely breathe, and then the brain's like, I'm dehydrated in oxygen, so therefore I'm going to create a headache. So it give you a signal to perhaps breathe more. But then people don't think that way. They think,
No.
oh, I'm just going to take a pill
Yeah. Or go to sleep, wake
or go
up
to
with
sleep.
the headache
Mhm.
gone.
And also it could be other things too. I'm not saying that's exactly what it'd be. Water, hydration, like obviously that's another thing of the body needs water and oxygen. So, these kinds of balances. So that's a whole other thing, water talk.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious if you've ever been asked this, but I'm kind of gonna group it, because you're a spiritual coach and an artist. So I'm gonna approach this as if both happened at the same time, and if they didn't, you can address it that way then. But for the sake of the question, is when you were, going through your life path, what moment did you go, aha, I need to turn and become an artist, and this is going to help me be a better spiritual coach? And how did that impact your life, that you went in, and what was your life like in that aha moment?
Well, I was always an artist. When I was 2.5 years old, I was drawing right away, and I was always in art. And I knew as soon as I have any memory of my childhood, I was an artist. I knew I wanted to be an artist, so it's just something innately born with. And I was a pretty advanced artist when I was a child, and like I make jewelry right now, but I was also drawing and painting, and I was doing that at the beginning for many, many years. So I knew that that was part of who I was. And it did evolve and change as I got older and I got other interests, and it evolved me to taking different directions. But I always had this connection with myself, and now I understand it more now than I did then. But when I was always just connected to this part of me, this channel was always present, and I thought it was normal. I thought everybody actually had this channel, this connection where you could just download this information, and that's how I expressed myself through my art and drawing. I would create worlds through drawings, and people would be blown away. And I didn't think that it was like abnormal to do that. I just thought that was just like, oh, anybody can do this, right? You're like, no, not everybody can, and just it came natural to me for many, many years. I didn't think of it as a spiritual thing, for a long time because no one taught me that. I grew up in Kansas, and there's like the Midwest, So no one looked at my drawings and the worlds I was creating as a spiritual thing. And then late, even in my 20s, it wasn't until really when I moved to California in 2000, then I started to open up this other like portal, like, wait, of understanding spirituality, because my understanding of spirituality prior to that point was just Christianity, because I grew up in Kansas, and that was the only spiritual thing that I saw. No, and then maybe a little bit of Buddhism or other little cultures, because I did grow up in college town, so I saw like little glimpses of other kinds of religion, but I didn't understand the true spiritual aspect of it, except for what I had experienced personally, but I never really connected that until much later. And then, like, when I got to, I moved out to California and I started to open up more of those channels a little bit later, and just through different spiritual teachers, and they were talking about intuition. And I remember having this conversation with myself, like, what is intuition? What does that mean? Because my mind was also very strong too. Like, I had all this mind stuff saying one thing, and then like, well, had to first my I think my first journey of spirituality of any kind was just understanding intuition, the discernment of the mind, and the discernment of connecting to, my higher self. So that was, I guess, the aha moment for me. And I was just more of the learning of that. um I guess that really shifted for me was when my parents passed away, and they both passed away very close to each other at a when I was years it's like, I was 15 years ago, or no, 13 years ago. Sorry, I can't do math. And that was the because then I was mentioned that earlier, when the aha was like really connecting to this other part of me that was beyond anything I ever experienced, was really connected to the other side that I had never been connected with. But then it was like this remembrance of my childhood when I had that connection when I was really young. But then my parents or school systems and other cultures were like, they taught me to, or they not to listen to that part of me. So I think that's what happens to a lot of us, where we're born into having these gifts, but then we're taught to unlearn these gifts as if there are no, like they were important. And so over the years, as I got older, I had forgotten that part about me. And then when I was on that spiritual journey, I was like relearning this, until one day I just woke up, because of what happened with my parents and that connection. And then I realized what was actually real. And it was more real than anything I was ever taught. And that was the opening, of the aha moment. And there's been like many, many aha moments after that, that just kept escalating and escalating. But that was like
Right.
the first time.
And so I'm just kind of curious, how did that impact your life, growing up, knowing, like your art was different from other people's art, and, finding, your path later in life, how did that, like, was everybody accepting of it, or were people like, oh no, you're not going to succeed at this, and it's like you had to learn to stand on your own? Or, what were those moments and, like, through that aspect of shaping you, how they impacted who you are today?
When I was younger, um, my parents really embraced my artistic nature, and they allowed me the freedom to explore that. And I'm very grateful for that. So they allowed me to be the artist for many years. However, um, as I got a little older, let's say through the school system and high school in particular, then I was conditioned to think that, oh, you're never really going to make it as an artist. You're not going to make, you can't make a living on the artist. Like those beliefs started to sink in. It probably came in when I was younger too. Most likely, I just don't remember. And then, but I still focused on my art, and then it shifted a little bit, but my interest grew. Actually, I became very interested in filmmaking, and I was also into the filmmaking part, and that's actually what brought me to California, is I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I came to California and I went to film school, and then I did a little bit of the film or the Hollywood thing for a moment, and I was, getting into that, and then I realized very quickly that I didn't wanna be part of that. It was something that I saw kinda like the dark stuff kinda right away, which is very surprising. Not surprising, but I just sensed it, and I'm like, "I don't wanna play this game." And so I kind of and then deviated, and it's a whole journey, it's a whole story of what shifted, and, I ended up so I did the Hollywood thing, and then, yeah, it was kind of a dark period, and I wanted out I wanted out of it, and, I even had a marriage, and it was surrounded kind of about the whole Hollywood thing, and, being a little vague about it, but then eventually I got out, and then new opportunity showed up for me, which was in the education world of helping children, and I, became very inspired to do that instead, and that was very, very fulfilling, and I actually created a business where I was educating international students of American culture for many years. And I loved that part of education and inspiring people, and that's kinda like really the driving or one of my missions is really to help inspire people, and that came through with the education. But then I knew that of course, there was this deeper part of me that was ready to do more of the spiritual work, and that started to blossom more really in 2020 when COVID hit and everything shut down, and the business that I had also shut down. So I had to go inward, and I went deeper into the spiritual parts and the channeling parts of me, and that's when I started this company, Starseed Circle, was in 2020, um, and that grew and but then the other business came back and that kinda took my attention for a little bit, but it's like my soul was like, "No, no, 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 you're not gonna be taking this path anymore. It's not gonna work for you like it did," and things got really difficult, and I had to let that go. And then I had to fully then shift to Starseed Circle and fully embrace what it is that I'm meant to be doing and serve my mission, which is through my art and through the channeling and also education. That's a really big part of why I'm here is to educate others how to connect back to themselves. And the art that I use are tools and it's these tangible ways of like showing people, hey, you can put third eye crown and activate that part of you, and also like educate people at how to do that for themselves, how to connect back to themselves, working with their intuition, and also these activations to wake things up because we all have these inner gifts within ourselves that we don't realize. I realized it when I was younger that I had these gifts, but it dimmed down for a little bit and I had to reignite that. And I also help people to do that too. I think a lot of people have very similar paths where they had a gift and then went a little dormant and then boom, it's ready to come back online. So that's it kind of brings me up to date.
No, thank you for that. And one thing that I'm curious, about, because I know what it is and what it means to be one, is how did you find the courage and I'm trying to think of the right word. I'll just stick with courage right now to stand up and go in a world where it's like it's either mainstream religion or you're going to find yourself in an institution as what we grew up in. And so your voice was dimmed to survive, so
Mhm.
to speak, to go and stand up and say, I'm an activator. I'm going to do this and consequences be what they are, but this is what I got to do. So that's it. And so I'm just curious, how, you found the magic and the courage within you to stand up for it, even though the world would never be ready for that until now. And even now, it's iffy. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
My microphone died, so I'm going to use the phone microphone. I forgot to
I was
charge it
about
all
to
the way.
say, I don't think they want us to hear this answer because all of a sudden we couldn't hear you. I was like,
It's the
oh,
most important answer everybody can hear. No, just kidding. So as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. Yeah, I was just saying that courage, the right word. It does take courage to do this work, and it doesn't. It's not for like it's the I don't know, the lighthearted. I mean, I don't know. I don't like that saying because what does that mean anyway? But like, it takes courage to stand up and do the authentic thing that this is this is what I want to be doing. This is why I'm here, and believe in that. When the rest of the world is saying no, 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 you have to fit these other molds, and I've experienced so much of that, and and it's not easy because there's a lot of like self-doubt that can come in the way, and it doesn't come in the way that is typical. So I don't really let other people affect me, like, so if like strangers, for example, if the strangers were to come and say something to me, I believe in myself enough to know that what they say has nothing to do with me. Like, I'm aware of that. Like, they can attack me, they can say things, they can try to deviate and say you shouldn't be doing this, and I have such belief in my heart, in my mission, and who I am, that I know that they're just speaking and they're reflecting on their own fears and beliefs, and that has nothing to do with me. But I know who I am and what I believe in, and that's the most important, and that's really the most important anyway. And it's really like what they feel is even none of my business. If they want to like judge me or whatever, and think I'm crazy or whatever, it's fine. They can totally think that way. I'm not here and I'm not gonna put the energy to convince them otherwise. As long as I stand ground with what I do and what I believe in, that's all that matters anyway. And the right people who want to gravitate that and learn from it, well, will do that. And I'm not going to waste my energy on the ones who want to go against it, or argue it. And sometimes the hardest part is the loved ones around you, the people you supposedly trust. They're like coming in, they're like, no, I think you're gonna need this, you're gonna need that, you should do this, you do that. That's when it gets really tricky. When you have people who are well attended for you, they want the best for you, but they come in, and let's say you have a goal or a gift, or and they want to say, no, maybe you should settle for this. That's probably going to be safer for you, and you want to trust them. You want to, because they love you, they want the best for you, but yet you have to. That's where it takes real courage, is to understand that, okay, people can have their good intent for you, but you can still have to believe in yourself to do it anyway. And so that's how I experience it. And now, yeah, I don't know, I've experienced enough where I don't let the outside affect me so much. And someone can come and yell in my face, and I'd be like, I'm sorry that you have to feel that way, and I hope that things get easier for you. And I get comments all the time in my messaging, and I don't take it personal at all. How can I? They don't even know me. I
I
don't know if that
almost
answers
feel
your
like
question.
it does. And I was gonna say, I almost, as just to be funny, would be like, here, take this little sliver of rose quartz and stick that in your pocket.
I
You need some chilling
love it.
energy.
It's kind of funny. It's funny to do that because like I get people who are like "Ah," they want to like attack me, and I'm like, and I just blast them with love. I don't even like give them any energy, and then sometimes it gets to a point where I may have to like block them or whatever. But usually I blast them with love, and I say it's such a way where they can't even like attack me. Like, how are you gonna come about that? And if
Right.
they do, okay, then I'll whatever, we're done with our conversation. I release them with love, and that's really it. It's like but I understand that, and it's taken me up to now where I'm at now to understand that. But give me like 10 years ago, I would have totally not. I would have definitely taken it personal. I would have even 5 years ago. I would be triggered by it.
Yeah. So I kind of have a question that I hear a lot from people, and that is they either like symbolically move into new energies and everything new because they feel that this is where they're supposed to go and everything, and then they get overwhelmed because it's not what they thought it was going to be, or they start getting distracted from what their purpose is and they get overwhelmed. So, what advice would you give, or what stone, or, other, method would you give to help them go, okay, take a step back beyond the breathing, into that moment to help, calm the overwhelmed so they can return to clarity and balance?
Yeah, I often teach people that when depending on the journey or really any parts of the journey, whether you're advanced or just beginning, there's these overwhelming moments, and especially at the beginning when, let's say someone just had their awakening, and it's not easy. It's not all fairy dust and unicorns when you have your awakening. It's probably be one of the hardest things that a person can ever go through. So they're going to face a lot of these shadows and a lot of like overwhelm for sure, and when that happens, and then like and what I mean is like when they're on this path of becoming more authentic of who they are by speaking their truth or doing the thing they know is more in alignment for them, but yet other people are responding in a way or things are collapsing, and that's typically what happens is things, people are like, wait a minute, who are you, why are you acting this way, or why, things and the external can start to change or even collapse, and that's when things really get overwhelming. So it's like baby steps, I would say. So when you're in this trajectory of your, let's say, spiritual awakening, specifically that, and or you maybe you've been on the while, but you're on another wave of it because there's waves. There's all these like levels. It's almost like a video game where you're on a different level. Like you have like, I don't know, I guess there could be the ascension level or just the beginning level. I mean, we can, and there's all these different layers, and none is more, better or worse or more advanced than the other. It's just where you're at. So if you're on the stage where it's overwhelming and it's like, things are collapsing, things don't make sense. And it was like, but yet there's this beautiful connection to my soul, and I know what I want, I know what I'm doing, and it feels amazing. But yet I'm living in this world and it feels like things are just collapsing. Just like come back to yourself. And I would say I would use the breath, like make sure you carve out moments just for you, and take a little solitude if you can, like however long you can, just come back to yourself and just connect and take breaths, breathing in and breathing out and just releasing, and release the attachment of what you think how things should be. Like if you think, it needs to be like this and this and this, or things don't seem to be aligning. And sometimes when people have a goal of their path and things don't manifest so quickly, there's typically a gap. And I've experienced that. I'm actually experiencing one myself, where there's this gap where you start this path, and then there's like, where you launch yourself, and where you're going. So there's this part, you're so close, and that's where you're heading. But it's all about the journey. Like you're literally here to experience the journey. And again, there's not better or worse. So just be patient. And as you're going, and it sometimes seems like you're stepping back, and you go forward and back and forward. Just take these moments, take these pauses, go in nature, do some breath work. Always just find and carve out time for, I'll just speak to the person, for yourself to come back to yourself, feel that connection that knows who you are, why you're here. And even if it's just a moment, and eventually you're going to get there. It's just going to be this little bit of dance, forward, backward, this way, that way. And eventually you get closer and closer and closer, and then you're there. And then guess what? There'll be another layer to go to. And then it's just this evolution. That's what evolution is. So don't judge yourself when things don't seem like they're not happening or they're not perfectly aligning. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Just stop, take a breath, remember who you are, and then just keep going.
I love the synchronicity of the universe because I had a question in my head and I feel like you just literally just answered it. And so I'm like, don't need to ask that question now. Because
There you go. I'm just channeling it for you.
yeah, 'cause I was gonna ask, like, because we're close to the end. I was like, if someone who's beginning their, path of awakening the divine feminine and finding the magic within them and everything, what advice, do you have to go through it? And I was like, as you were answering that at the end, I was like, that is the advice for that. So literally just got answered before I even spoke it.
I just read your mind. Sorry about that.
Hey, as long as you don't get lost in there, I'm okay with that.
Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I tell people, I'm like, if you feel like you want to read my mind, you go ahead, but just know I'm not giving you any maps. And if you get lost in there, I'm not
No,
coming to
no
find
codes.
you. I don't even go into my mind. So good luck to you.
So funny.
Yeah. And so, where can people find you if they want to, say, order a piece or get advice for stones and maybe order a piece?
Yeah, so right now you go to my website at starseedcircle.com. I'm trying to update my website where it's updated, and there are pieces there, so I work on updating, and you could certainly order online. You can go to my social media at starseedcircle.com. Always posting the latest stuff on my Instagram. So that's probably the quickest way to see what I got. And you can just inquire about it. Say, hey, I like that piece. Or if you see something, I can always create a custom piece. But if you go to my website, I have also pretty much everything there. I also offer, many services as well. I have events that I'm doing. I have actually, I mentioned it earlier, I have one coming up on June 28th called the Empress Rising. It's pretty much everything we're talking about on this podcast. We're going to be really diving deep into that and really going to the divine feminine power and really working with the throat chakra to opening that up. That's what I got the download for, is to open up the throat chakra. That's probably the most places where a lot of the feminine are repressed, is right here, because we've been literally being killed for speaking our truth and sharing our gifts. So this workshop's going to be all about that. So if you wanted, more, it's going to be in Los Angeles, that one. And I also do like a Zoom activation Mondays where you can join that every Monday at 7 p.m. And I have different modalities that we work with and different topics, and that's been very amazing, just so amazing. And then I teach different tools and practical tools that people can implement in their daily lives. And then I do an activation at the end, so it's like a combination of practical tools and activation, and infusing that together. And that's every Monday at 7 p.m. And then, yeah, I offer more, if you want more of a one-on-one help and in coaching with that, I offer that as well, where you can really just, customize and target whatever, you want to work in for yourself that needs more attention than the other tools and modalities.
And I'm kind of curious because we're talking about balancing, both, the masculine and the feminine. Do you allow men to attend the Empress, rising, or is that you feel is more that's for the women and guys can do the activation on Mondays and get it that way?
Right now, this particular one would be more for women, or women, or at least the connecting more of the feminine part. I will offer other workshops. The Empress Rising will be targeted for women, but I would do a co-ed one for sure. I have this one called Higher Self Integration workshop that I've started, and that's both men and women can join that, and it's a lot of what we're talking about. And then I create different events that both men can participate in as well. And yeah, and then the activation Mondays, women and men both both join that, and anyone can join that and get the benefits from it. And of course, if there's any like one-on-one coaching, I work with both men and women specifically with that. But yeah, I think right now I'm focusing on just the women. I would like to create. It would be great to create something. I haven't done that yet. Maybe that could be my next project. I'll get the download where I can have a workshop of, I guess we could just say, the divine masculine and feminine coming in together. I think that it's a good point you're making, because I think that men just going to a workshop for men, it's like they need women to come and be participant with that. So I would love to create something where men can have, connection with the divine feminine power and energy, as well as balancing the masculinity, and having a beautiful workshop for both working together. I would love to create that as well, and that could be maybe the next thing.
Yeah, because it's one thing that I've noticed. Like, I came from Mankind Project where it's men only, and we do work on the masculine side, but we talk about bringing in the feminine side, but it's not really offered. And then you go and you look around and you're like, well, everything that's designed for the divine feminine is women only. And so it's like,
Mhm.
how are
Yeah.
guys supposed to get the feminine energy if they're not accessible? And the same thing
Yeah.
with women who need the sacred or divine masculine. If it's denied to them, how are they? And so that's why I ask, is because I'm not like trying to rewrite the program. I'm just trying to put out there
No.
for people who are looking, going, hey, here's a source of it. This is what you need. Go here. This place has it. We finally have a spot.
Yeah, it's such a good point you're making, and I would love to be a pioneer of that. Like I know that I have this event that's targeting for the Empress. Perhaps the next one could be the Empress, and it's just like both the men and women coming together, connecting to their energy. And I think that I have sensed that as well. And I think that it's time where, women and men can come in this co-creative sacred space where they can, really tune into that. And I would love to create that for, maybe that could be the next one, the next event, the emperor and empress together.
Right. And because it's like I'll listen to couples and they're like, you don't listen to me. You don't understand me. And I'm like, and I sit there and I look and I'm like, no kidding. Because we
Hmm.
have no tools to understand you.
It's
So,
yeah, it's so true. And I have one of my past lives, or this life. I used to coach a lot of men, like on speaking to women and how to speak with women. So I understand that part, and it's, and I haven't brought that around yet. And I think that you're bringing it up is planting a seed for me to really create that for men. And it's time. I'm focusing a little bit with the women, because I want to fine tune that a little bit more and elevate that, because I think women need it. But I definitely feel inspired by this conversation to create something for both.
right. And not, and I know this is going to sound like I'm diminishing women, and it's not my intention, but I feel like if you were to take women where they are now and say, okay, this is how men process and this is how they work, I don't think that they would totally grasp it, and it would push them back down because the energies are so high when guys are like processing it out and they bash it out and they're like, okay, we're done. Well, women still, are like, wait a minute, how did we get here? How did we, how did that work? And it's like they never said a word, but yet they're done. And it's like that's where I feel like it would diminish them because they would be like, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't. And it's like, well, no, because we're not you. We don't think like you
Hmm.
in these moments, and so it's gonna be confusing for you, just like it's confusing for us. And
Hmm.
that's why our energies, will push a certain way, and it's like, yeah, we're not meaning to put you down. It's just that's how the energies are working because neither one of us are clear and understanding, and one of us has to take hold and say, we're done. We'll just, I'll go over here, you process over there. We'll meet up when we're both in the same place.
Yeah, that's such a good point you're making. It's true, and one of the things I really do I will share during the Empress Rising, and I actually talk a little bit about that as I was channeling the information. I felt like, with women, it's not about overpowering anyone. Like, kind of like the old feminine movement where they were like trying to, it basically was like they're acting like men or being like men or trying to overpower men. And that's one of the things I'm actually bringing it up during the workshop for women is in the one of the intentions obviously to tap into their own power, but one of the messages is to tap into their power in such a way where they're not trying to overpower, they're not trying to um, to create a gap or to create the polarization of the masculine and the feminine, but to embrace it. And so that's actually the things I plan to teach during the workshop is to embrace the masculinity and really to heal that, because that's what needs to happen. So when women are tapping into this energy, or they attend this workshop, it's about embracing their power and embracing this the masculine energy, where what they learn, this beautiful power, they can share that with men in a way that helps men. So by healing themselves with their own balance and their own power of basically just going inward and understanding what that even means, when they come out back to the world with the men, they're not out trying to overpower or just demean anyone or anything. It's more of a balance. So that's why I do feel it's important to hold this kind of workshop first, is to have women understand their own power so that they can tune into that and then bring that out to the world, for other women and for the men. And that's the ripple effect. That's how we're going to make the change and rebalance the world is through that. And so it does start with the women, because it's like I mentioned earlier, it's not, we're all divine. It's the healing, it's the wounds that created this, what you're saying, this, almost like they're in this kind of war. It's
Right.
like it's this wounded masculine, it's this wounded feminine, that's what's created this dynamic that we live in today. And of course that's changing, and I think that's what people are feeling, and that's why we were talking about the divine feminine. What that really means is healing that divine feminine, healing the masculine parts of us too, so that that part is healed, so that we can balance ourselves in a way and have this beautiful union or reunion of the masculine and the feminine energies together. And it doesn't have to be this battle. It doesn't have to be like this polarization, even though the masculine energy will be different than the feminine energy, but there's a co-creative existence that is coming back, and it just needs healing.
Right. I agree. And so thank you for doing that. And I know we're running over time. And so I thank you for your time. And I appreciate you taking the time to share your stories and experiences with us. And I will leave you with a message that I've been kind of, I could say, channeled to give at the end of every episode now. And I feel a lot from it, and it makes me smile and happy when it comes across and gets validated on the other end as well. And that is from my heart and the heart of my shows to you. Thank you for what you're doing for humanity.
Mhm.
It's seen, felt, heard, and thank you for being authentically you and standing in your energy.
Thank you. I'm receiving that. Thank you.
And what's interesting about that is, as we were talking about raising energy tonight, I was on a channeling session with a friend of mine, Starseed Lolo, who's a musician too, and the group that was coming in and channeling said, the simple act of a thank you can raise vibration more than you know. And they said the way you two are doing it, meaning Starseed and I, is a beautiful way. And it's like we didn't do it with that intention. We just felt like this is missing, I appreciate my guests and I'm thankful for them. So I want to say a thank you. And so it's like to me, I was just following my own intuition, I thought. And when I heard that, I was like, that's really true. It does raise
Mhm.
my energy and I see it, like when it's received and everything raises theirs as well. And it's like, wow, what a beautiful gift. And it only took like 1 or 2 minutes. It reminds me to, and I hope it reminds everybody else, when we talk about, raising energy and raising vibration, we're always talking about doing these modalities and doing the breath work and doing all these things that sounds like a big process. And yet there we did it. Real
Mhm.
simple with a few words.
Mhm.
And so it's like, it's so to me, the gift is to remind us it doesn't always have to be a grand gesture. A simple act has the same power as the grand gesture.
So true. It's the simple things that we often take for granted, but often are the most powerful.
Right. And so I truly do thank you. And thank you for being a guest on my show because I know not all shows are the same. And it's almost like a catch 22 of you don't know till it starts. Is this going to be a good fit, bad fit? Are they misrepresenting, what they were talking about up front? Because I've experienced that on my
Mhm.
end. And so I do my best to be authentic and upfront and bring my guests on and give them exactly what I tell them I'm going to bring for them and be in the safe space. And so thank you for trusting me.
Thank you. Thank you for, allowing this space to be authentic and taking the time to ask the questions and to, get to know me a little bit more as well as whoever's watching this. But thank you for you holding this container where it allows people to come online and just experience this knowledge in an authentic way and you keeping it real. That's really important. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And hopefully we'll see you on again. And we, and if anytime you have a conference or symposium or however your projects, however you want to word them, and you want to come on and talk about it and like kind of almost like free advertise it, you're more than welcome to, just let me know and we'll see if we can make something work.
Awesome. I will do that. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, and sorry, Sly. We we started at 8 o'clock tonight, and so we are wrapping up. But trust me, you're gonna want to go and watch this one on the replay. So
Going over. Well, thank you everyone for watching and wishing everyone like the most, living their life at their best and their fullest and knowing that their dreams are very valid to live by. So thank you.
yes, thank you, and be sure to like, follow, subscribe to my channels,
Mhm.
and follow her website. As she said, that's where she updates her offerings and her art and everything. So go and check it out. And you never know. You may have been searching for a piece, and there it is, just sitting there on the website saying, "Pick me, pick me. Here I am."
Yep. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. They're like, take me home with you.
I'm yours. Take me home.
Take me home. I'm lonely here on this website.
Yeah, so thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night and rest of the week and weekend. And if you haven't already and you are free Saturday, there is a conference that a friend of mine, Gina Virginia Casella, is putting on. It's called Summer Days, and it starts at, I think, 9 o'clock Eastern time and goes till 6 o'clock Eastern time. So you do have to go to her Buy Me a Coffee page to get a ticket, but it is totally worth it. There are great speakers coming up. And so also be advised, tonight, this is the last episode for this week that I have of shows that I'm hosting. So keep an eye on the channels because you never know when I'm going to be popping up on panels or lives somewhere. So, but with that being said, I'll see you all next week for shows. And thank you again to Amy for all that she's doing and for bringing the divine feminine back into a world where it was stripped away. And so it's definitely time to restore that. And I am all for that myself. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
And with that, we say good night, everyone.
Good night. Sleep well.